Good morning, everyone. I am at school, as you can see. The teachers have 2 work days and then our kids are gone. So it's nice and quiet here. It's real lovely. So I came to work early so I could use my library to do some recording. Today we're going to be talking about the gear that has made the cut to go with me this summer on my 2 through hikes of the Benton McKaye Trail and the Colorado Trail. So let's just jump right in. Hello everyone. For those of you that have visited my channel before, welcome back. And if you are new here, thank you for joining us. So before we start talking about the gear that I'm going to be taking on my Benton McKaye Trail, that's 288 miles, and then my Colorado Trail, about 487 miles, I just want to quickly review about me going on my shakedown hike just this past weekend. I just ended up going for one night. I had bought some new pieces of gear that I wanted to try out, and I figured out that I'm not going to be taking either one of those 2 big pieces of gear that I had bought. So I love gear, so I'm always buying stuff, trying it out, seeing if it's for me. I have never bought any gear that I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate this. This is not a good piece of gear. It will just not fit for my style of hiking. And that's okay, because we're all different. And that's why it is so wonderful that there's so much out there to choose from, because you will find what works for you. So I had bought a Mariposa, a Gossamer Gear Mariposa 60. And I've already had that backpack. I loved it. And then I thought I want to try out the new one. So that's why I got that. And I used it. I loved it. But that backpack is good up to 35 pounds. And then it is not comfortable anymore. And it squeaks. And so I do love the backpack. But for me, when I have to carry more food, which I will have to, there will be a few times that I'm going to carry some longer days of food, then it's just not comfortable. So I'm going to keep it and use it for other trips. And then my next piece of gear that I got was the Dan Durston X-Dome 2-person. And I like that tent. And if you see my previous video of my shakedown, I kind of told about it, but I like it. It's just a little fiddly. It's got too many little clips for me. And so I have been using the Big Agnes Copper Spur UV, the Ultralight ULV 2-person, and I've used that for a long time, and I love it. So it has been the best tent. I've had to seal it in a couple places because last summer, whenever I was hiking, I was in a flood. It flooded, and I mean, my tent was floating. And so anyway, long story short, I had to wash that thing in the washer on the lowest cycle. And I think it undid, somehow, damaged some of the sealing in the seams. And I only had like a very tiny little drop of water ever so often when I used it for the rest of the trip. So I re-seam sealed that. Otherwise, that tent is just so lovely. The only thing I wished is it were made out of, the fly was made out of a different fabric, like some, the Dyneema or something like that. Of course, I could maybe buy the new one that's got the hyper bead. That may happen next year. I don't know. So anyway, back to my original, what I'm talking about, the Dan Durston tent. I think I'm going to sell that. I don't see myself using it. It's a great tent for somebody else, but for me, I can put my Big Agnes in some tight spaces. The poles for me are manageable. It was just a little too finicky for me to deal with. So my sale will be somebody else's treasure. It's not junk. I always say one man's junk's another man's treasure. Well, I don't think this tent is junk. I just think it's not for me. So what's not for me will be for somebody else. All right, that's enough of that talk. I'm at school. My talking starts getting like whenever I'm talking to the kids. So anyway, before I hop over there and start talking about all the gear that I'm taking, I do just want to say that as you're watching this, you may think, oh, that gal's backpack's too heavy, or I don't know why she's taking that. But I just want everybody to know and to remember that the gear that's out there is what I have chosen. This is what makes my trip comfortable, what I choose to take, and the same for everybody else. Everybody's gear videos that you watch, they have chosen that for some reason, and maybe it will work for them. Maybe they'll get sick of it by the end of their trip. Maybe they're just trying it out right now, and then it's not the gear for them, or they may end up loving it and using it. Like a lot of my stuff that you're going to see, I chose whenever I first started backpacking, and it's still with me. But, you know, everybody has something different, so just remember that. All right, so with that said, we're going to go over and start talking about the gear that I'm going to be taking. New this year is going to be my Light Heart Gear rain jacket and the pants. So the rain jacket that I previously used is a black diamond, and it's a little bit thicker material, and I love that rain jacket. I've had that for a long time, and it just works perfectly. But it's a little heavier, and I thought I would like to try out something a little thinner, a little bit lighter, since I'll be on the Benton McKaye Trail, and last summer it was very humid. It rained a lot, but it's also humid, and when I wore that jacket, yikes, it was just a little much. So I thought I would try out this rain jacket and the pants, and I've never found any rain pants that I just absolutely love. I do have a pair that I use, but they're lined, and they're perfect whenever it's kind of colder. But I would like to just try out these lightweight ones. So I will have this, and I like whenever I go and do laundry, I like to wash all of my clothes. Well, then I have nothing to wear. So I have in the past just wore my rain suit, my pants and my jacket, and that works out perfect. I also use these if I'm in camp and the mosquitoes are really bad, because usually I'll wear a pair of shorts and shirt in camp, and I'll put on my rain gear just to kind of keep from having to deal with mosquitoes, and that system has worked really well. So that's my jacket. I like it. It's kind of roomy, it's nice. If I ever am wearing my fanny pack, I can still hopefully have that underneath. And then of course the pants, they have a cinch. They cinch up to fit perfectly. So gonna be trying that. And then the next thing that I started using last year, and I'll put some pictures in up here, is the Packa. And I found this by watching, I love to watch other people's videos, and Bad Bat, which I'll put a link into her channel. She did the Appalachian Trail, I think in 2023, and she used this, and I thought, well, that looks interesting. I think I would like to try it. And I took it last summer, and I also used it the summer before when I was in Colorado, just on like a little couple day trip, and I absolutely love this thing. So it comes in its own little pack, its own little pouch, and then you put it's got kind of like this little turtle back here. This part here goes over your backpack, which you'll see in my little picture that I put in. And then this is your backpack part, and then this will wrap around you, the sleeves, and you can tuck them in back into your backpack. And so you just have the cover part on your backpack, and you wear it, and then if it starts to rain, you just kind of pull it out, the sleeves out, get the hood on, and you're good to go. And one of the things that I absolutely loved about this is right here, this is where the hood and the backpack part are. This right here, that's at the very top of your backpack, and so you have no rain running down the back of your neck, where with just a pack cover you would still have rain that can rain down, down your neck and go down to the back, down your back. I absolutely love that. So I did like this. And the thing is with rain gear, there's going to be condensation inside from you sweating. I do use pit zips. That does help. This can get a little bit hot, but the great thing is you can unzip it, get some air flowing through. There are pit zips here. So you're going to maybe have a little wetness from sweating. That's common. Or, at some point, if it's just raining nonstop, your stuff will kind of wet out. But I have to say, last summer when I was on the Benton McKaye Trail, it rained pretty much every day that I was on that trail. I think maybe I had 3 or 4 days that there was no rain. So this was lovely because I could just take it on and off, tuck it back in, but leave my pack covered. I really did like it. And so none of my stuff, like my backpack never was just like sopping wet. It might have been like a little bit damp, just from the water sitting on it, and it just does gradually, wet through, but nothing that caused me any problems. So that is a great piece of gear. And I do carry my umbrella, and I'll try to poke a picture in up here. This has been nice, even though when I'm walking with Packa on, if I sit down somewhere, I want to eat, and it's raining, I will have my umbrella, and it's very lightweight. So it's not, it's not like you're carrying some extra weight, but it is nice to be underneath here just to take a break. I did whenever I was in some area of it just raining and raining and raining. I'm wearing the Packa. It was great, but I just attached this because I have an attachment on my strap, and I could just walk, and just sometimes just rain not pounding on your head, and it's just on the umbrella. It's just kind of a nice change. So yeah, I will be using that. Next, we're going to talk about my sleep clothes and the clothes that I wear when, I'm in town, if I'm staying in a motel, or if I'm at a hostel. So this year, new for me is these. I'm going to use these for sleep pants, and I just wanted a little bit lighter weight. I have Outdoor Research that are lined, and I've used those forever. I love them. But I thought, let's get a new pair and try them. So I did try these out. You can see through, you can kind of see through. They've got like this little micro grid, kind of a loose weave. They're very comfortable. So I'm going to give those a try. And then I do have my Patagonia. This is just my micro hoodie. Very warm. I use this when I'm hiking if I just need a light layer. I've also sleep in this if I feel like I need a little bit more while I'm sleeping. And then whenever it's hot, when it's warm enough, I'll wear shorts. I can also wear these, out if I'm in town and I go and grab something to eat. I can wear shorts, but I also sleep in those. They're swim shorts. So if I were to decide to get into a hot tub or swim, I've got my swim shorts. And then I just wear a comfy, this is just an REI t-shirt, so I can wear that with my shorts, sleep in it, lounge around in it. And then I do have some sleep socks. This is just a pair of Smart Wool that I used to wear. Now I don't wear them anymore, so I use them as sleep socks. And I carry an extra pair of undies that I just have for my tent, for sleeping if I want to have those. And I do carry an extra bra. I'm not one to go without that. And then the one that you wear all day long hiking, it's sweaty, wet, and that's just not comfortable. So that is something I choose to carry. All right, next we're going to talk about my toilet bag system. So I have just one of these Hilltop little lightweight bags, and that's what I put everything into. Of course, I take toilet paper. I have a little bag of wipes, which I also use these in my tent at night. And I don't carry very many of these because you'll see in my personals bag in a little bit that I have the little discs, the little wipes that you just add a little bit of water to, and they puff right up to be, you know, a wipe. And I really love those things. They work great. But I do still carry some wet wipes around, and I do use those. I do keep some of the Clorox hand sanitizers, or disinfecting wipes, and I use that after I go to the bathroom, and I wipe my hands off. If I don't have access to any water to use my Bronner soap to hand wash, I use this, and then I also use some hand sanitizer. But I also try to use these before I eat. Just to get my hands a little bit cleaner and hopefully not get any kind of a awful stomach bug. So I have that. I do carry like a little sanitary pad around. I have some of those in my personals bag too. And those are just handy for me to, sometimes you can't get off trail. And, you know, I'd rather just not pee my pants a little bit. And that kind of helps keep your undies a little drier and a little cleaner for a little bit longer. So those are handy for me. I also have a little container of baby butt cream because sad to say, when you're doing all of that walking and sweating, you kind of get a little chapped hiney sometimes, and this is very soothing and nice. All right, I did have I've had all sorts of trowels. I'm always looking for just the best trowel for me that I can really dig a good cat hole without any trouble. And so far, every place that I've been is either really rocky, really rooty, and I have a hard time digging with some of those trowels. And I just finished my hike, my shakedown hike, and I tried out a new trowel that I had got at REI. It just didn't work for me. So I am back to this Sea to Summit. It is dirty, but that's clean dirt. And it pops in and out, if I can get it. And it's this size, and it fits in its own little case. But I used this all last summer, and this just worked like a charm. I could dig. I mean, I got through the roots and the hard, like little rocks and stuff. This worked great. And I never dug my knuckles down into the ground like I have been doing. So I'm back to this little Sea to Summit. Doesn't have a particular name. And it does open up at the end to put a little tiny bit of toilet paper in. That's nothing that's going to be working for me. I need more than that. But yeah, I love that. And then, let's see. Oh, of course, I have my Kula cloth. And this is just the pea rag is what it can be known as. So you use that. It is nice. I do love it. Keeps you from having to use so much toilet paper, and just snap it back up, I hang it on the back of my backpack. So that is my little potty kit. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is my personals bag. And what I put into that is, I do have some of my medications. I also have some vitamins. I don't always have vitamins, but if I can take some, I do. I keep some electrolyte capsules, I found that those work really good. If I can take one in the morning, I drink some electrolytes through the day, and a lot of times I'll take one of these at night. I have found that's really helped me with just keeping up my electrolytes. It's helped me so much with my leg cramps, because at the end of the day, that's when I would typically get some leg cramps. So that's a good little system for me. And then I do have, these were the little things that I was talking about. The little, they look like a little cert, but you just add, they're just a little dry wipe, and I just add a little drop of water and they just puff up to be like a wet wipe. So I love these. If I'm able to have these, when I send myself resupply boxes, I will have those. And if you can find them in town, I mean, they just sometimes come in such a big pack, but they are handy, and they weigh nothing, and that's important whenever you're packing around stuff. So I have that. I do carry like one of these little dog bags, these little dog poop bags. I will have these to put my wet wipes in, just to kind of keep the moisture, and stuff in here. Also those little panty liner pads, I stick those in there. And then I do have this half-gallon trash bag that I keep that little bag in, but like my other dry, if I have just like any other trash with me in the tent, I stick that in there. I do have a little miniature deodorant. I do like that. And then I do take a tube of lotion, because I get dried out, and there is something just so nice about at night after I take my little baby wipe bath in the tent, and to put this on my feet and just give my feet a massage. It feels so good. And I just hate when my skin feels dry. It drives me crazy. Now, one of the nicest things about being on the Benton McKaye Trail, I figured this out, that I don't have to use any lotion. None. It's just so humid. But, I'm from New Mexico, and it is dry here. I mean, you've got to have some lotion. But I just keep it in my bag, even if I'm not using it on the Benton McKaye Trail. I just still keep it, because just in case I want it. I have a little comb, and then I do take this little travel mirror. I have that. I take a little tweezer. I do have some clippers, but those are in my fanny pack. I keep those over there just so I have those, because a lot of times I'll break a nail. Not that my fingernails are long, but you'll break a nail, and I just like to trim it off real quick. So that's in my fanny pack. But I do keep a little travel scissor, and the reason why I use these is, you can see I have these big bangs, and they grow fast, and I can't stand for them to be in my eyes. So on the trail, I give myself a little bang cut, or sometimes I do it whenever I get to a hostel. But I like those. And of course, I have a floss. I'm just not good with the string floss, so I will have these. I have one in my fanny pack. I have this one. I send myself some. I do use a travel toothbrush. I keep it in here. My little travel toothpaste. And I do take a razor. So, not that I need to shave my legs all the time, but when you get to town, when you get to a hostel or a hotel, wherever, campground, it is nice to have, and it's lightweight. So those are all of my personals that I take. So next we're going to talk about my first aid and gear repair kit. So I always have an extra pair of glasses, because I'm blind as a bat, and if something happened to the ones I'm wearing, then I would have those. And then in this bag, I just have some alcohol wipe pads, so if I were to get a cut or something. I do have some different little medications like Imodium, some Benadryl, some Advil. I have that in there. I've got some Band-Aids and this quick clot that my daughter bought me. I do keep some Benadryl cream. I would use my Luco tape. I have done several things with that. I've wrapped it around my trekking pole. I wrapped it around a dowel stick, but it either got real sticky and wouldn't come out off, or I ran out. So I just have this roll and I carry that around and I don't mind. I've got some ear plugs, so if I need those, I have a little bit of the glue, like super glue. I've used that before. A little tiny sew kit if I needed to quickly sew something up. This is a patch for my air mattress. I do keep some tenacious tape, so if I need to repair a tear in, in some of my gear. And then one of the extra things I take are these little aqua tabs. If for some reason I needed to do a little extra, a little more to filter my water, or to treat my water, I have that. And then I also have an extra little rubber washer gasket thing that goes in my Sawyer squeeze. So that is all of my first aid and my repair kit. This is my electronics kit. I have this little Hilltops lightweight bag. I am using my phone to record on right now, but I do have the iPhone Pro Max 16. And so that's what I'm using for that. I do have my little microphone right here and the little transmitter that goes in, so I can use that when I'm out on the trail. I use my little mini Garmin. This is new to me this year. I've had the older version, the big one. It still works great, but it's heavy, so I treated myself to the small one, the little mini 2. And I have my Nightcore headlamp. This is my Flex Tail pump, my air pump, and you just fit this over, goes on your air pad, and you air it right up. I love it. It's lightweight. I use my little Apple tracker. I put that inside of my backpack, and I can track that backpack while I'm flying and traveling. I have like that. I've got some different charge cords that I use, and then I've got the little Anchor, the wall charger, and I like to have enough cords that I can plug them all in here, and then I just swap out anything that I'm charging. I did order 2 new Anchor, or I think I got 3, because I had 2 really big, heavy, old Anchor battery packs, and those things were heavy. So I did order the newer, the light ones. Those just aren't here yet, but I will be using those to charge my my stuff on trail, because whenever I'm recording with my phone, that sucks out a whole lot of juice out of that phone. So I'm going to be getting those in another day or 2. And then I got my SD card adapter so I can transfer my pictures and files over. That way I don't run out of space on my phone. And then I do have my SD cards that I carry in this little pouch here. Those just go in there to protect those. I've got my Shocks headphones, and then I just have a regular, just a Fitbit watch, nothing fancy. So that is all of my electronics. For my water system, I keep in my fanny pack, I keep my Catadine Be Free. And I started doing this a few summers ago, and I love it because I can push this bag down to be just really small. I get my filter in there, make sure the water or the air stays out of it, and I can just carry this around in my fanny pack. And so if I want to stop and just scoop up some water really quick and drink right there, I can do that. I have just pulled one of my bottles out and filled that up. So that is kind of like a quick on-the-go water filtration system, and I like that. So, and this is lightweight. But I also use the Sawyer squeeze. I have never experienced any problems with this filter. This one, the only problem I've had before is after a while, sometimes depends on like the water, if there's a lot of sediment and moss or something in it. I've had to really shake this and clean it, and then it just might be slow. I haven't had it ever quit. The only time it hasn't worked is maybe after a season and I pull it back out and I'm going to use it again. Sometimes it won't work even if I soak it. This one I was able to soak it and get it working again. So I love that. But yes, I do use my Sawyer, and I always have a bottle. This is my dirty water bottle, and I put stickers on it or mark it somehow to remember that this is my dirty bottle. Sometimes, you know, you think you're going to remember stuff like that, but you don't. So if I'm at a water source, I can fill up my water. Then I just put my Sawyer on, and then I can filter my water, and I can filter into my clean bottle. This is also my electrolyte bottle. This is where I just put electrolytes, just flavored stuff in here. Otherwise, it's just plain water in this. So I do use that system. One of the things that I do like is for this bottle, I have tried bladders in my backpack. I hate that system. I do not like it because I never can get the bladder out to get it refilled, and so that just was not for me. But I did when I first went on I attempted the Colorado Trail some years back, and I watched a YouTuber hike Oregon, and she made one of these tubes, showed how to make it. I'm pretty sure that was her. So this tube is, you can buy this tubing and cut it to your size, but this came from my water bladder that I knew I wasn't using anymore. So all I did was buy one of these little bite valves and got that put in there. And this is the same one I've had. This part is the same. I've only had to replace this little part, the little bite valve itself, because I actually do end up biting that, and eventually that plastic will come off of there, that rubber. But what I did was I took one of the water bottle sport caps, which always have an extra one. I took the little lid, got that off of there, and then I had to kind of get this little hole in here a little bit bigger, and I just took like a metal file and heated it up with a lighter and was able to kind of scrape out some of that plastic, and then this just fit in there nicely. I mean, it'll come out, it'll come off, but I just pretty much leave it. So once I filter my water into here, I put my tube in, screw it back on, and I don't get it too tight because then, you know, otherwise you gotta have some little bit of air in there. And then this just goes in my side pocket of my backpack, and then I can just drink on the go. So I love this system. This is just really handy for me. One of the things that I do also do, is when I get to camp, or like if I know if I'm going to be able to carry water farther, I will a lot of times have my dirty water in here, and I always have a lid, of course, and I will carry that and then just filter it later. But if I'm wanting to have filtered water like a bunch at one time, I will fill up this 3-liter Canuck bag, and I hung this in a tree, which I'll have a picture of somewhere up here, and let it gravity feed. And then I have my coupler. I'll have that I could have my bottle and have the filter, and then this is hanging up. I can get all of this coupler goes on here. So that works out. That's a really nice system. What I do with my filter is once there's water in it, I try to shake it out, but there's still going to be water that stays in there. I've had this little reusable Ziploc bag since I started backpacking, and I'm still using it. It has worked perfect. The only thing, I got like a little pin, so just a little pin hole in there, and I just taped it right up. I can see the little seam might be fixing to give out right there at some point. But I zip it up, and then that way, if this leaks any water, it stays in here. I do keep all of this. I just roll it up like this. And I put it in this Sea to Summit, this waterproof bag. And that way, if I need to at night, if it's cold, if it's like, I know it's gonna be below freezing or, get down to freezing, I have this in my quilt with me, and then it doesn't leak. There's no water comes out of it. I don't have to worry about that. So that is my water system. I do always have an extra lid just in case I drop one of those, which I've done. And then of course I have that smart water bottle cap. But that is my water system. All right, for my cook system, I use this little Toaks 750 milliliter pot. I have that. I have a little rag, so if I need to wash it out, wipe it out, this dries really fast, so I can get it dried overnight usually. And then I keep it in my pot there. And then I have my little fuel canister, and I put that into my pot. And I use the BSR, this little stove that just screws onto my, my fuel. And I've had this thing, gosh, I think since I first started backpacking, I have never had any trouble with this. So I really like that. I use that little stove, and then to light it, I always have waterproof matches, and I have had to use these before, and I carry a lighter. And one time my lighter just, I don't know if it was empty, it just wasn't working, it was malfunctioning, and I'm glad I had these matches. So I have that, and then I do keep one of the, just a little rubber gasket that replaces in here in this screw thing. So sometimes those will go bad. So far, this is the original one. But I have that. I use my Toaks spork, and this I usually keep in my one of my pockets up front. During the day, because I never know, if I'm going to eat something. Most of the time, I don't eat anything that requires a spoon, but there have been a few times where I chose something like, say, the chicken packet, and I needed to get it out, and this was down in my backpack. So I do keep that handy, but that is part of my cook system. And of course, my pot goes down. This goes in to the pot, the lid goes on, and that goes into my sack. One of the things that I started doing is I take for breakfast, I've made my own protein shake mix, and I love that because I'm not a breakfast eater. It takes me a few hours of being up to feel like eating anything. I would love to just sit with coffee and ease into my morning, but on trail you can't always do that. So I do have a protein shake that I do put a coffee pack into, so I sort of get some coffee, and then I shake this up. And I did use the Talente ice cream jar, but last summer whenever I was using it, I was going to have some oatmeal, so I thought, oh, I'll just eat it in that jar, and I just melted that jar up, the little ice cream jar, with the hot water. So, of course, I'm always looking for new gear, and I was looking around on the Chicken Tramper site, and lo and behold, look what I found. One of these little cold soak jars, and this weighs the same amount as the Talente jar, but it just seems bigger, a little bit bigger. So I've already tried it out. I put my protein powder in here, my 8 ounces of water, and I shake it up, and then I can drink right from that. Another thing that I started doing last summer is I love cold oats, and that's like one of my morning snacks. And so I just have that mix. I put, after I drink my shake, I kind of clean out the cold soak jar, put my oats in, and add the water, and then I can carry that with me and then eat that. I eat that like as my second breakfast, my morning snack. So yeah, this has been working. This is really great. But this is my first year to use this Chicken Tramper. but I have done that cooking system, eating system with the Talente jar. Just have a new jar. So that is my cook system. Now we're going to talk about how I carry my food. So most of the time, I have carried my food in a food bag that I had bought. I'll put a picture of that. And I use that food bag whenever I know I'm going to have trees that I can do a hang, my food bag hang. I've also used the sack a lot with the odor lock sack in it. So I have used, I've tried several different methods. So with your regular food bag that I had, that's great if like if you're not going to be dealing with bears trying to get your food or chipmunks. One time the chipmunks just, they tore everything up. One tried to get into my tent. I didn't even have any food in there, but they'll just chew through. I think they can smell stuff. They were even crawling up in the tree, and where I was at was I had my rope hung from one branch and then threw it up over the other so I could have it hanging because there was no tree with the branch sticking out. They were balancing out on that rope trying to get to the food bag. And they did get over there. They were able to get down into the food bag and chewed up some food. So, I'm having to kind of rethink how I'm using my methods of carrying food. So then I moved into using an sack. I don't think I have a picture of that, of me using that system, but that's worked out fine. But the problem is if you're still needing to hang food, I just felt weird about tying it around a tree. I never could get the tie right, and I just still pictured a bear. They're strong enough jerking that bag off of a tree, even though it's tied around it. There were a few times I had to just go shove it into a bush because I couldn't get it around any tree. It was either too big. So, there's that issue. And last summer, whenever I was on the Benton McKaye Trail, I never did see any bears like people that I came across did. And some of them there was even one when I got into the Smokies. There was one of the first campsites, the first areas that was closed due to bear activity. There were cables there, but still, if they're there, they're going to possibly be harassing you. I did meet some people that had dealt with a bear that was harassing them, and they had their food hung. So, I've got a little bit of fear right there with trying to figure out what to do. So I do have a bear canister. I just so happen to have this because when I first started backpacking, I was completely freaked out about dealing with bears. And so I bought this and tried using it and thought it was way too heavy. And it is heavy. But, I've been watching a lot of people that are on the Appalachian Trail right now. I'm on Facebook, people that have been on the Benton McKaye Trail. And there's a lot of bear activity right now. And so I'm just trying to make the best choice of how to carry my food and try not to have any issues with bears or little varmints getting my food. And it does make a really great stool to sit on. So I am going to take this because once I get on the Colorado Trail, there are going to be some places once you get up a little higher, you may not have any trees to hang your food from. And so I'm going to go ahead and use this and just kind of have that little worry out of my mind. Not that there won't be a bear maybe come by and harass me just to be doing it. I'm going to pray that doesn't happen. So for this trip, I'm going to be taking the bear canister. And I do already have my 2 days of food in here. And I do know I can put 6 days of food in here. I've done it before. You got to pack it very strategically. But I do have my stuff, have an extra bag. So I don't know if you can see down in there. I have my food in there. So that's how I'm going to be carrying my food. And that kind of leads me to why I decided I was going to use my Osprey Asia, my 58 liter backpack. But I ended up going with my Osprey Aura, which is a 60 liter, and I used that all last summer. I love it. It's comfortable. Osprey backpacks are very comfortable. I've already put this in to my backpack, and I just put it in horizontally. And in a little while, I will make a video that shows how I pack my backpack, and it really does feel fine. It feels okay. And with this and all of my gear, minus water, I haven't put the water in yet, but that it weighs 30 pounds. And so once I add some more food, which I will have a 6-day food carry a few times, and then I add my water, that should put me up to 35 pounds, maybe 36 until I start eating down my food. I can handle that. And that backpack carries really well. So I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be good to have this, and I'll have a sit spot. All right, next thing is I'm going to talk about how I carry my food just during the day when I'm hiking. So I usually in the morning time when I'm making my protein, my shake for breakfast and getting things packed up, I will get my food out that I want for the day, and I pack a lunch. And so I will just use a gallon Ziploc bag, and I already have this ready. I have a trash bag. I always have a food trash bag for that, but I'll start my hike, and I'm going to be hiking 2 days at the most, maybe a day if I'm feeling great and I can walk the 18 miles. And my first stop's going to be at the Skeena campground, not because I have to stop, but because I want to. I love that campground. I've stayed there the 2 summers past, and I just want to go there, even if I've only hiked for 1 or 1.5 days. So I've already got my food almost ready for what I will carry on the first day. So I pack my lunch. I will have my cold soaked oats for my first snack, and those just go in the side of my backpack. And then I have some other snacks throughout the day. So I've got myself one of these Lenny and Larry cookies. I love these things. And then I have a candy bar, which I like to have. I will have my lunch, which I'm taking peanut butter and tortillas, and I do have honey. I just don't have those in here yet because I've got to get the tortillas and my peanut butter and honey's in here in my bear canister. But I will, and then in my backpack, I already have in the pockets, I've already put some other snacks to eat on the go. So I just get out what it is that I'm going to be eating during that day. That way I do not have to unload my entire backpack and get out this bear canister or even the food bag before that. So I just pick my daily food. I have electrolytes that I keep in a little pocket on my backpack strap, but I do have an extra one that I'll get out at lunch. And last summer, I got to having coffee after I ate lunch, and then I would have a dessert, and I would make myself a coffee, and then I always have some type of because I love creamer, but, I can't haul creamer on the trail, so I would have some kind of a mix-in. I was using these little Cocos. Those were good. And then that coffee just kind of gave me a nice little boost of caffeinated energy for the rest of the day. So I pack all of that I'll have my peanut butter, my tortillas, and and I'll put my spork in here. You just never know, but you might need it. But stir in your coffee. But this will go into one of my front pockets, and then when I stop to eat, I just get my lunch out. One of the things that I started doing is I always get me some chips, and there's actually chips in there. I've been snacking on those. I took these this past weekend. But these just go in the front pocket of my backpack, and I have those with lunch. But I have reused this can before. If I buy Fritos, I will pour a bunch into here. This holds more than what you think. And I'll pour some in here. I put crackers in there. And this little plastic, the Lay's, these are plastic. It works perfect. So then my crackers, if I put them in the first little pocket, the front pocket, they don't get smashed up. So that's been working great. So that is my food carry system. We're going to be talking about just some miscellaneous items, and most of these go into my fanny pack, and I love this fanny pack. I bought other ones, but this is my favorite because I like all the little pockets. I glued this thing, taped it up, but I really like it. So I do have on the outside of it, I have my thermometer. I like this thermometer because you can see what your low was at night, and then you can see the current temperature. So I love that. So I use the fanny pack. And some of the stuff I'm going to talk about right now is what goes into my fanny pack. So I do carry sunscreen. That goes in there. I have a knife. So I use that to cut my cheese and just cut open packages. I've got some just different chapsticks. I always have a tube of Advil. So if I need that going down the trail. I have a tick key. Lord forbid I ever have to use that thing. Last summer there were a lot of ticks, but I was able to find them before they actually attached to me. So I have that. I have a binder clip, and I've used this before if I bought something, stopped and got some candy or some chips, and I needed to clip the top back up and I didn't have a bag, I would clip them shut. So I really like that. I just so happen to have had that in my fanny pack. I don't even know why, but so I've kept that in there. Of course, I've got an extra bottle cap because I'm primed for dropping the others. So I have that, an extra floss, clippers, a little nail file. I've got this pen, which I've used this before to hang something wet off of my backpack. Except for on the Benton McKaye Trail, and it doesn't matter. I could walk around all day long with something wet, and it seems like it never would dry because of the humidity. I've got an extra hair tie. What else? Oh, I do carry a little notebook. I'm doing that this year because I'm tracking how much I spend. I've given myself a budget, and of course, I've got a little extra saved. But I want to track and see how much I spend, and I want to try to keep myself on my budget. Not that I'm just on the trail spending bukus of money, but I do want to do that because I'm on a big saving spree because my goal someday is to hike the Appalachian Trail, but I'm saving money for that. So I do have a little notebook. I always have a pen, and I do carry a Sharpie because when I've stayed at hostels before, you need to write your name on stuff. This has come in handy. So that goes in my pack. Always have some Kleenex. This is my wallet. So I will have my money in here, my cards in here. I always have some Tic Tacs. Sometimes in the morning time, I'll feel a little bit sick, like my stomach feels a little sick. And if I have some pepperminty candy or gum, I've done that. It really does help. So I carry these around. And then I have my little head buff thing. I like to keep that in my fanny pack so I can put it on real quick. And the other thing that I have just loved is my head net. Now, so far, I have not used this bug net for any bugs, but I have used them for spider webs. So whenever you're going down the trail, I was going down the trail on the Benton McKaye the summer before last, and the cobwebs were so bad because there's not a ton of people on that trail. I was going crazy. You know, you're sweating, you got those cobwebs sticking to your face. So I finally got this out and put it on. There's probably still cobwebs. When you take it off, it would just be full of cobwebs. So that and all that stuff goes into my fanny pack. And I do carry my headlamp in my fanny pack. I keep my little Garmin inReach in there, my phone. I have some of my headphones going there. I do keep some snacks like in one of the pockets. My Catadine Be Free goes in there. So yeah, I can fit a lot of stuff into that fanny pack. But all of that is fanny pack contents. And then another thing is I take this is my Benton McKaye Trail book. And so I keep that just in the front of my backpack. But have that. I also have this little roll-up towel. And I use this whenever I got to last summer. Well, first I used it to sop up all the water that had just rained and rained and rained, and it ended up getting into my tent too. And so I sopped up water with this. Well, then it was all gross and dirty that when I got to the Skeena campground where you can take a shower, but there's no towels. This is usually what I would use. I had to dry off with one of my little, I have a little I have a little miniature of these that they're over there. They're on my pack strap, but that I wipe my sweat with. I also got a new one this year for blowing my nose because I don't want to blow my nose and wipe the sweat off my face too. That was just kind of grossing me out last year. So I have two smaller of these, like little half sizes that are for my sweat and one for my nose. But this little towel, this is what I would use at the campground after I showered, and it was lovely. It's very absorbent and it dries really quick. Also in the evening when I take my little tent bath, I have used this before where I just would pour some water on it and wash my face. It just, I don't know. I used the little wipes too, but this is just with some water is nice. I like that. But yeah, that's my little towel. And then I use one of these reusable grocery sacks. And this is multi-use. So when I travel, when I get ready to leave, my fanny pack, the stuff that I have for my traveling will be in here. And that way I can put a water bottle in there and I can just carry this around the airport with me. And I keep it all contained because I'm the world's worst on laying something down somewhere. So that's handy. When I am in town, if I'm going around shopping, resupplying, I will have my wallet in here, my phone. I can put stuff in here to haul it back to wherever I'm staying. I also use this whenever I'm on trail and I have to go and gather water. So there was one instance on the trail last year where I had to go like a quarter of a mile to gather water. So I had my bottles, I had my knock bag, and I was able to carry it all back up with this. And it was so nice. So this is very lightweight. I just wad it all up into a ball or, get it just a rough fold and stick it into my backpack. And it's a multi-use and it's very strong. And so I love that. All right, I think that is it for my miscellaneous items. All right, next we're going to talk about my sleep system. And I'm going to be doing two different things. Since I'm starting on the Benton McKaye Trail, I'll take one quilt. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to be going to Denver and I want a little bit warmer quilt. So I'm shipping that in my resupply box, and I'll just get that then, and then I'll ship my other quilt back home. But I do have my quilt I'm starting off with, so I'm going to talk about that. All right, for my sleep system, I use the Thermarest Neo Air Light. So I start off by blowing that up, and then I have the Trekology pillow, which I've ended up liking a lot. I get that blown up, and then I put my buff over it like a pillowcase, and that's very comfortable. And then I can put that strap around my air mattress, and that keeps that from moving around, because I'm kind of a wild sleeper and I would always knock my pillow off. So that has been really nice. That's worked. So one of the things I always have too is this orange Sea to Summit. It's a sleeping bag liner, and on the Benton McKaye Trail, you know, it's hot. It can be humid. I have just laid on top of that like a top sheet. I put my air mattress down in it where I could just lay on top of it. If it got a little bit cooler, I get down in it and just sleep inside of just that liner. And then one of the things that I did my first summer that I went on the Benton McKaye Trail, wasn't even thinking, and I took my 0-degree down quilt, and you know that was way too much. So last year I bought an Enlightened Equipment. This is the Apex. It's synthetic, and it's a 40-degree. And so that works well there if I want to, you know, if it's cool enough, I sleep in it. Sometimes I'll just use it as a blanket, and I won't attach, you know, this flips over and these attach around your mattress pad. That way it doesn't, you know, fall off of you. But sometimes last summer I unclipped it and just used it as a blanket so I could throw it on and off if I didn't want to, you know, have my feet down inside of there. So that's my sleep system. All right, next we're going to talk about the tent that I'm going to be using this summer. I'm not going to set that up here, but I do have enough pictures that I'll put in so you can see what I'm going to be using. All right, we are ready to talk about the backpack that I have chose to use for my Benton McKaye and Colorado Trail. I had tried out the Gossamer gear like I talked about. Not going to bring that because it's going to be I have to carry a little more weight. So that is out of the running. And then I was just going to take my Osprey Asia, which is 58 liter, but because now I'm going to take my bear canister, I have chosen just to use my Osprey Aura, which I said was a 60 liter, but it's really a 65. And so that is the one that I'm going to carry, which I used that last summer, all summer long, and I loved it. It was comfortable, and I'm able to fit all my stuff in, and it's still just very comfortable. So let me show you that backpack. All right, everyone, I've got all of my gear loaded up in my fanny pack and my backpack, and I am all ready to go. So the first thing I do is I put my fanny pack on. If I can get it buckled, you have to feel. All right, so I get that on. The nice thing about this backpack, it's got this great hip belt system, but you have to get it to like to come apart to get it on, because it hugs your hips. All right, so I'm gonna get this on, then I do my belt. Get that adjusted. Then my straps under here. Then my chest strap. I usually tuck my water tube up there. So there's my backpack. And one thing you can see, hopefully you can see, how these straps, this is why this is so comfortable, is you've got these straps that it's lifted up off of your shoulders. So I do have an issue with like having shoulder pain or my arms going numb. And with these backpacks, these Osprey, that doesn't happen. You can see, you know, how they're lifted up. And your weight is really, I mean, you're really carrying it in your waist here. So I love that. It's so comfortable. And then I do like these. I can get to these pockets on my Gossamer gear. Also on my Asia, they're a little bit farther back. So I love that. All right, and then I've got my lecky or leaky poles. I've called them lecky. I know everybody pronounces them different, but they're HTS 6.0. But they're called Legacy Light. And I started, the first poles I used were Black Diamond, and I liked them. They worked great. But my daughter, we went just on like a day hike, and I let her use the poles, which gave me an excuse to buy a new set of poles. And these were the ones I bought. And they've got the cork handle. They already have the adjustment here, you know, if you want to tighten them down. So I absolutely love these poles. And I do have a little bear bell, you know, but where this bell has really come in handy is with people. Because sometimes you'll come upon people and startle them and scare them. But I've noticed that since I've just left this bear bell on, I haven't startled as many people. It seems because they can hear you clicking and clacking and dinging before you get up on them. So, yep, I'm ready. I will be heading out in a few days. So I will see you on the Benton McKaye.